What's going on, everybody? Wilson here, your spiritual hype man. I'm super happy to be here today with the one and only Erik Libby. What's going on, Erik? How are
Looking
you?
forward to it. Doing well, Wilson. Doing well. Looking forward to
Yeah,
our
dude.
time.
Erik, let's just for the people that are listening and may not know you, man. Let me just tell you, like I'm sure you get this all the time, and at some point I'm going to ask you. It's like, do you get tired of saying, "Man, for such a young kid, like you are an amazing, like you're just a grown ass man, like mentally,
Mm.
right?" So I was thinking about it because I was like, man, I wonder how many times you get that, and I wonder if you're like, all right, guys, all right, I'm young, I get it. Like,
Interesting.
does that hit you up? Like, does that make anything, or are you just
Yeah.
like,
That's a great question. And I appreciate your thought on that first. I do appreciate that. I always try and be as humble as I can. Like, I mean, people will say that, and I mean, having a business at 22 is atypical. So it's just like, well, I mean, I do get that frequently, but what I would say sometimes it's interesting because sometimes I feel like that's a surface level compliment because you don't know me well enough to know like the whole deeper. It's like, wow, you're got things all figured out.
yeah,
And I how I perceive it sometimes is like saying the nice thing sometimes is like the easiest way to kind of like mingle in conversation.
right?
Where almost if it's negative feedback, that sometimes that clicks in my mind a little bit deeper,
Mm,
where it's like,
mm.
wow, okay, interesting. And maybe it's they're having a bad day, but maybe they're at the same time, any negative, there's always a little bit of truth that you can parse out, even if it's not
Love it.
full truth, but there
Yeah.
is something that you can take where for me, when somebody will tell me that, of course I appreciate, of course I really I want to take that compliment humbly. I don't mean that in any sort of ego driven way at all. But I know sometimes that it kind of comes in. I'm like, yeah, I appreciate it, but that doesn't push me to be better.
Right.
Whereas I hear negative feedback, and that's more my driver,
I
I
love
think.
it, dude. That's a great perspective too, actually. That's a great perspective. Because I thought about it. I was like, I wonder how many people have told you like so I guess the question, was really is like, does it bother you that they call you young? Knowing that like your perspective, like your mental capacity and everything you got up here is definitely not that of a
Yeah,
typical like young adult, right? Like I feel like you're way above and way ahead of like
yeah,
most people. So, and now for you to actually say that perspectively, like it's not bad and it's okay, but really,
yeah,
what really gets you going is when you get negative
yeah.
feedback, or I
Like, well,
guess,
let me. Can I intercede? Can I
yeah,
ask
yeah,
you some questions
yeah,
too?
yeah,
So, like, I mean, how do you perceive that? Like, if someone were to give you, because I mean, you get video guy, like hype man, right? Like people love that about you,
yeah,
Wilson. People
yeah,
love that and respect that. That's kind of the energy you bring. And if you get that constantly, like it's good, kind of the
yeah,
affirmation, like okay, you're going in, and that's what it is. It's like little, it's almost like little data points. It's like okay,
yeah,
you're going somewhat in the right direction, but then what hits harder? It's when there's a negative feedback. And I don't know. I'd ask, like, how do you
yeah.
parse through the positive, negative?
Yeah, so I guess for me it was that, and that's where the spiritual hype man came in, because for a good amount of time people are like, oh, that's the camera guy, it's the video guy, and I'm like, I think I'm a little more
Yeah,
than a video guy, you know what I mean? So
right.
so I think, yeah, and that's a very good parallel in terms of like, again, for me seeing you, it's like you're just not just a young kid that's doing well, like you're way to me, I feel like you're way more above the kid, like being the video guy in terms of my parallel. I see you more
Mm,
as the spiritual hype man in terms of what you're doing, because at your age,
mm,
or not even your age, but you're, again, see, like I try to put myself back there. I'm like, I wonder if I was as like keen on some of these ways that you perceive things, and the ways like
yeah,
even seeing you like being so open to like asking for feedback or seeking a mentor or like seeking advice from all these other people that are like, honestly, and sometimes in some positions probably not better than not doing
yeah,
better than you, but you still have that like drive to want to seek that knowledge,
yeah,
is something that I admire. I'm like, wow, that's
yeah.
it's pretty freaking amazing. So,
I, I
kudos
have,
to you on
I
that.
have, I have something on to add on to that too,
Yeah.
which I appreciate you saying that. Um, when so you asked me the question about does it bother when people ask like, oh, you're so young and doing like honestly, that portion really doesn't. When people say like, oh, you're so young, because in a way, like it's a weakness being that I'm young and inexperienced still, but also in some ways I'm able to use it to my advantage because in a lot of ways, what I'm seeing, and like same thing with me towards like people that are still in high school. Like I've gone and spoke at a couple of the high
I
schools and
saw
just talk
that.
about the business. Like that's an awesome thing to be able to transfer some of the lessons, wisdom to younger generations. So in a lot of ways, because people will say quote unquote young or have
Yeah.
some ambition, but am still young or inexperienced, like I can almost use that as a card to play. Like people are willing to offer me more help or guidance. And so for me, I try and leverage that as much as I can and still being open. Like there may be people that, like I've been in business now 4 years,
Mm.
someone that started a business a year ago, like I may have more business experience, but still their life experience or some of the other lessons they've had may be able to offer me a lot more. And so it's like I would rather open, and it's hard to say. It's like it's easy to say, hard to do, because
Yeah.
sometimes our egos just kind of blind us to like I'm absolutely right about everything.
Right.
But it's like even the people that may seem like I know way more than you, but if I close my mind immediately, there's no chance in other, even like if this is the feedback I'm looking for, business,
Mm.
the feedback about personal life, the feedback about relationships, like there's all these other things that encompass
Right.
where I would miss it. So I try my best. I think it's a daily human struggle, but try my best to at least be open to feedback, advice, and like if they need to say I'm young to make that happen, I am more than okay with that.
Yeah, no, that's it. That even just that you by being able to understand that, perceive it, and even speak on it, it's just like a whole different level, dude. No, it's good, and you know what? It actually had me reflect for a second. In the moment, I reflected. I'm like, huh. I wonder if I do that, because like I'm definitely there's definitely levels of that with me, and of course I guess it could be the ego, right? I guess if we want to
Mm,
vocabularize it as
mm,
that,
yes.
um, that's a good one. That's a good one to think about, and maybe even for the listeners too. Is like, are there moments of that throughout your day that you sort of shut everybody else out, or other feedback back because you feel like in this position you're doing way better than most people, whereas you
Mm,
can still learn from other people in your different arenas and different verticals, which ultimately equal you as a whole.
yeah.
Right. So
Right.
yeah, very, very good. That's a good one to perceive. So I hope people are
Absolutely.
taking notes.
I have a couple of things I'd love to press in on a couple of questions or
Yeah. Hit
something
me.
that's kind of it's coming through my mind as I'm thinking about this. So in terms of receiving advice and feedback from people, and I mentioned like taking it in, like taking it all in, but then kind of choosing what to do with it. How do you, if someone gives you an advice on, hey, Wilson, you should consider doing this, or you should adjust your approach, like, hey man, you're working too much, you need to like cut it back.
Yeah.
I think maybe that's a struggle of mine sometimes because I'll have a lot of voices in my ears telling me
Yeah.
go this way, go that way, go this way, and so trying to pick out like how do you go through that?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's honestly, it's just I feel like I know best, right? So for my, in terms of myself,
Right.
and people are like, well, how do you know what's right? And I think for me, it's like one, I can look back at my past precedent, right? So like I use that as like reference, like where did I come from? What did I do? Not just in business, but as like interpersonal growth.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also balance that through, you know, what, like based on who I am, what is the decision that I would want to make that makes me feel good in this future situation? And
Okay.
and then I base that against, does that make me feel good? How does that affect other people? Like for me, I'm again, the spiritual hype man is what I've quoted it as, but really it's, I think there's like an intellectual and emotional IQ that I have with people. And
Mm.
so my
Yeah, absolutely.
decisions, like my end result is like, okay, like I'm not just thinking about myself, but my end result's like, how does this decision affect everybody that's like very close or in this situation going to be affected? And I feel like
Right.
between past precedent, what I'm doing, how I did it, the change I've made, because like I used to be crazy. Like I used to be like there used to be, and people that have listened to some of the podcasts, they've heard some of the stories. But like I feel like for that, that's how if someone's given me feedback, I'm always open to it, I would say, for the most part. But
Yeah.
I do hit it against my own, okay, well, what does that mean to me? Because I've had people tell me different things and go do this, and
Right.
maybe you should consider that. But at the end of the day, I feel like I know
Absolutely.
what's best
So
for
is it
us.
is it an emotional? Is it a logical when you feel that? Because like I'm experiencing what you are, but it's
Yeah.
to put a point on what that actually is. It's like that spirit almost. But like how is it that
Yeah.
emotional sense? Is that just that presence? You feel that this is the right decision? Is there logic based behind it? Like how does
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah. That's great.
Maybe it's tough to think about without actually being in one of those moments, like presently, but
Yeah, no,
I don't know
I think it's a mix, right? I think, well, like thinking about it now would be a mix for me. Like the emotional part is there for sure, and we've said this before. It's like there's moments where tapping into the emotional side is definitely beneficial, but there's also moments where that emotional side can like hinder your logical decision
absolutely. Okay.
making. And so I think it's for me in these times, it's or at certain times it's really just where am I emotionally, and then what is this decision like? What does this decision in front of me actually need? Does it need some emotional to get me through it? Or do I need to pull back the emotion to actually make the most logical sense, especially when
Right.
it comes to like dollars, cents, business,
Yeah.
overhead,
Yeah.
things like that.
Right. The more logical things in life. Yeah.
Yeah. You know,
Interesting.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's just the ability to like to be able to one, be aware of it in the moment, and then two, giving yourself that second before you decide, in terms of what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because we
It's
can be
super
very,
interesting.
yeah, very, very like as I would say as masses, we're very reactional. Like we react to a lot of whatever's happening.
The
And that's
quick
what,
impulse. The
yeah,
quick impulse. And
yeah,
that's the worst decision for what I'm seeing is the worst decision you can make is the one that's made right away.
right away, right. Especially if it is high emotional, right,
Mhm.
and it doesn't need to be, or if you can decrease that emotional state like a little bit.
Right.
Yeah, and
It's
there's
crazy.
been plenty of that in my past precedent,
Yeah.
where again I can go back and look at it and be like, huh, okay, yeah, that didn't happen, or that didn't result in the thing I really wanted, or
Right.
like the feeling that I wanted at the end of that
Yeah.
situation. And
That's
again,
so
yeah, go ahead.
go. Okay. I was going to say that's so interesting because kind of back even to how we started the conversation with being younger now starting to be more observant of behaviors and trends that are happening. It's interesting that, and I've started to pick this up maybe the past year of my life. I think there's things that are happening in trends that like I'm getting data points and like when this, then this happens for the most part. And it's like, I don't know if it's maybe I'm just more aware of it. I don't know if I can have a specific example for the listeners that are listening to this, but it's like it almost feel and maybe that's part of the guiding like principle of like how to move forward. You have that like spiritual like
Mm,
guidance where the emotional logical kind of mix together. But it's almost just like what it encouraged me to do is really keep exploring. So like do a bunch of things that I've never done before, gather feedback and data points from all these different areas that are unexplored, take that and then realize, okay, I don't want to go down this path anymore. So now taking this and like maybe my band or the my area of I don't know exploration
yeah,
we'll say is
experience.
this wide, and it comes like kind of closer and like and then another thought I've kind of had is when you're young, it's almost better to like be which divergent would divergent be outwards and then convergent is
Mm,
together, right?
yeah, it sounds
So
correct.
divergent, I think, and maybe I got it wrong, but basically like outward thinking where you try a bunch of different experiences to gain a wide perspective, and then career wise or just when you're learning something, there is a lot of value in getting really niche focused in
Mm,
one area where you're like really, really good at that one thing. And that's where the high society will put a high value on you if you can offer really high quality and value in one area. But to it seems like, and again, I'm speaking from very little experience, but like there's a value in going wide and then coming and niching to your focus of like your personal skill set. Like in a business, it's really helpful to be niche, but almost like
right.
personal skill set, gathering a lot of life experiences to put them together to like get really focused on maybe the person we're supposed to be in the universe,
Mm,
right?
mm, mm. I love it. Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know. Does that
No,
trigger any thoughts, or do you have any related thought processes?
yeah, no, I would agree. I think for the most part, most of us are like that, right? Like in early on, we'll go out. So I used to skateboard. I used to play. Like I used to do a bunch of stuff.
Yeah,
Like out there. And then through the experiences, I realized like, okay, well, maybe I'm not gonna I'm not gonna bust up my knee again. You know what I mean? Or
yeah,
et cetera, et cetera. So I think that makes sense. Absolutely, and definitely, I would say business wise for sure too. Like once you get into the business, if you niche down, which has always been my issue. My issue has always been like people are like, ah, you got a niche. I'm like, yeah, but I'm for everybody. Or like, I had a clothing line, and they're like, you gotta find your niche. I'm like, yeah, but it's for
yeah.
everybody. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right.
Which is a tough lesson to learn because I would say in certain aspects, of course, there's you have a mass that you can serve, but in most businesses, that niche is definitely where you see the riches, right? Niches is riches is kind
Yeah,
of what they say. Um, but yeah, I don't know, man. For me, like, there's a couple things that I've always known. One, I'm gonna go do it on my. I'm gonna do it on my own. I'm gonna figure it out on my like on my own way. Like, not saying that I'm
Mhm.
not open to feedback or I want a mentor, but like no one's like I always knew that like the structure of society that has you have to go do this and you have to go do it this way and it's 9 to 5 or 9 to whatever. Like I just was never about that. Like the longest
Yeah,
job I had was 6 months, outside of teaching, which is, I think a little bit different because I had different classes and, things were a little bit
right.
different. It wasn't as routine. So that was always something that like, I don't know if actually not, I don't want to say I don't know. And going back to the whole nothing changes until you do, like influence thoughts, emotions, actions, decisions, outcome.
Yeah,
Growing up, my influences, like like my grandfather was an entrepreneur, my grandma was an entrepreneur, my bio dad was an entrepreneur. So like it was there, I just
yeah,
didn't identify it until later on where I'm like, huh, like all these influence that has me feel like, that makes me feel this way if I'm caged up or cooped up in
absolutely.
like in a box. So I would just say, yeah, experience as much as you can early on, and then from there you figure out. But I think that's with anything, whether it's,
Yeah,
just yourself as a human. But I feel like you already know who you are, right? Like in you specifically, talking specifically to you, I can already see what I perceive you
yeah,
as and envision you, and so, anyone else that has like thoughts or ideas of what that is, it's like it's just feedback. It's
right.
like,
That's true.
you know,
And I think that's why I asked the question too, because it's like this, if you feel like the goal as an enlightened person or someone that wants to do something big with their life is what am I going to do that's going to leave a dent in the universe, right? What am I going to do that's going to change the world for good?
yeah,
And then you'll come in contact with a lot of people that don't have that same exact mindset or want different things. And I think because I love people and I have good relationships with the people that I am around. You'll have voices that will come in. They'll be like, "Oh, like what? Just take a break, like relax, like just." And it's easy to consume because it's an easy transition to make.
yeah,
And so sometimes it's like I have to really guard my framework that I make decisions on. And a lot of times when I don't know and I'm like I have no idea, I try and navigate more towards if there's an easy option and a hard option. Obviously, I want to gravitate towards the easy. But if it's clearly making itself apparent that there's an easy and a hard one, and I can distinguish as like one will be easy, one that's hard. Every time I've taken the hard option, at the end of it, like not right away, but at the end, I've always been satisfied with the result. So I'm always trying to decide: is it getting up early and going on a run? Like, you know what? Like, yeah, I might feel a little bit less tired right now. And that's just a small example, but less tired. But I know the harder option is always the better one. So when people try to encourage me, it's tough because it's like you can get sucked into the noise.
yeah,
But then I have to also remember, like, what are my long term goals? Like, who do I want to become in this world? And the framework, which I can't say I can't take credit for this. This is Alex Hermosi. I think you said you listen
yeah.
to Alex
I
Hermosi
love
sometimes.
Alex, man.
His one of his decision making strategies, which I've definitely pulled into my decision making, is what is going to be the coolest story to tell after it happens. So when you're whether it's business, whether it's personal, like you go through crap, like you go through like difficult situations, like put yourself through that because at the end, you can look back and like, wow, like I went through that and that was a really epic story. Like
Yeah, right.
I did, I did crazy shit and everyone was against me and like, I mean, that was a cool. I mean, and again, it comes back to what will, and it's like nobody. What is the phrase? It's nothing will change until you do.
Yeah, nothing changes until you do. Yeah.
So you have to make that decision because everybody else around, like you can rely on people to the point that I mean, getting feedback, having conversations, and I mean them rooting for you to an extent. But it's up to you to be a change to
Yeah.
make that adjustment. And then if I do decide to take the easy route versus the hard route, then at the end of the day, I know, and that's the hardest. That is the hardest person to deal with is the person you can become,
Yeah.
but you're not doing it. And you have to sit presently with, I know I should be making these difficult decisions right now, and I'm not doing it.
And I'm not. Right. That
I'm not
interpersonal self talk inside your own head. Right.
always right,
Yeah.
right,
That's
exactly.
funny. Well, so let me ask you a question. So what do you see yourself as?
When I vision like my long term or when I see myself right now,
Yeah, where do you see yourself now? And then what are the things like, so I would assume that some of the things that you obviously you're dealing with is people kind of giving you that feedback, like, yo, man, like you're young, take it easy, go do your
Mm,
thing, like enjoy that. Um, so like between that, where are you now? How are you interpreting that? And then what are the decisions that you're making?
wow. That's a I could give you my surface level answer, but to give you that's a great question. I'd have to think about that. I'm sure I could write like probably an essay on that
Did I
if
say on it?
I mind a dialogue.
Cool,
Yeah.
bro.
But no. But
No,
I
write
definitely
it,
can add.
send it over
Yeah,
to me.
I gotta write that down. In terms of, I mean, my surface level answer though is I've seen a lot of personal growth in myself over the past few years. Since 2020 or before 2020, I mean, I was doing the whole college thing. I was very like, I guess I was in high school at the time. But like just graduating high school, kind of coming into college. To be honest, I really didn't read a full book. I mean, I'm pretty confident to say a full book until after 2020. And I just went on this like tear of getting really interested in reading the Bible from the spiritual side, really interested in reading books and focusing on personal growth. And then like seeing what this whole business thing was about. So like those are the major changes. And I think how I see myself now is like I am in a fight to keep choosing that hard option because the more and more you get approval or praises from the world, like, wow, you're doing a great job, and exactly what you said, like, hey man, take it easy, like that comes so consistently. And I think it's just really like right now I'm trying to fight out all of that noise just to say, like, you know what, like I am not going to be with like everyone else, and that is okay. And I want to take the road that when I die someday, I left it all on the field. I gave everything I possibly had. I mean, I come to my grave and I am like a dilapidated old man. Maybe not even old man. I mean, I don't know, but like I'm just like
Yeah,
I've left
a
it
wise
all, my
man.
body, mind, spirit on the field. And I think the more and more I press into to learning about, I mean, these personal growth and just like spirit, like really facing that spiritual like enlightenment in a sense, like almost like that why are we here question.
Yeah,
I just I keep getting more of this conviction almost on my heart that when I'm not pushing myself and getting uncomfortable, that I'm leaving the potential of who I could be on the table. And like again, it's like I know that. Like other people on the outside may not say like, oh wow, you're doing a great job. And that's where that it's like that it's sweet to the ears, but it's not in a lot of ways, it's just it's surface level. Like it's not going deeper down into
yeah,
the truth. And so I think right now is just being very mindful of the voices that I take in, the feedback I hear, and still, I mean, having that, it's like having that care, which I was actually going to make a video about this, but like having, it's not like screw you to all people because you can't do that on one side, but it's like kind of like I'm different than you and that's okay. And like you do your thing, I do mine, but then
yeah,
also balancing that with like caring in relationships with people and like finding that middle ground, which
yeah.
it's so hard, but it's like, we can't completely isolate ourselves from people. We have to have some of that, but then also too, like being able to put that noise out. So long term, with that all said, I know I kind of went on a ramble there for a second, but is
No,
really just trying to be intentional. And when I get to, in a sense, when I get to heaven's gate someday, that I can look God and I having a conversation. This is my visual I
yeah,
have. God and I having a conversation and kind of that just well done. Well
yeah.
done. Like that's like, and even here, like just thinking about
You
that
can
right now,
feel it.
using like just fire
You
and
can feel it.
energy. Yeah,
Yeah, very cool.
absolutely.
I feel it too, right? That's great. They look down, they look at the list, they're like, Erik Libby, yep, you're in.
Well done.
Yeah.
Well done. Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right, cool, man. So a couple of things, I guess. So a couple of things from that you talked base about, very similar in terms of like, I found myself certain times like, man, I wish I had this, or I wish I did something like this, or I'm like, those guys, like sort of that level of I don't want to say jealousy, but more of just like, why not me, or why not them, or like why, whatever that
Mhm.
fill in the
Yeah.
blank. Similar to what you were saying in terms of like people, this is you, this is me, like we're different, and that's what it is. So one thing that helps me kind of realign or like reset my thought process when I start feeling
Mhm.
that way is I remind myself that that's not my journey. Like I'm happy for the
Mhm.
person that's doing successful in this arena or doing whatever. but my journey isn't that. Like I have a different
Right.
journey, and then that helps
Yeah.
me reset. And I'm like, you know what, good
I
for
like
them.
that.
Instead of like hating on them, or instead of like,
Right.
whatever, fill in the blank. And
Absolutely.
it helps me. And same thing with Patty. Like both of us are, obviously because we're influencing each other because we're very close knit to each other and we spend most of our time together. And it's something that has helped us out. And she's actually said it a couple times. I'm like, babe, she's like, I know, I'm on my own journey. And so it's just
Yeah.
something that, has definitely helped. And it's these little vocabulary words that trigger like the feeling or the idea or the perspective.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
that's one. And then I would say, where did your influence then come? So from not reading to starting to read and, initially the Bible and then going from there, like what was that influence? Who, what, when, where, how did that come about?
So from that 2019 to 2020 year.
Yeah, to not really reading. And then all of a sudden you're like, you know what? That
Yeah.
change, right? Because you can call that change.
Absolutely.
How did that come about? Where was that influence?
Yeah. So there, yeah, kind of coming to that end of 2019 year, there was uh a couple people that were in my life that were believed things that were so far away from my personal beliefs. So I grew up in a Christian household, but I really didn't know what that meant. So it was kind of the go on Christmas and Easter and I mean get on an airplane, say your prayer before you take off on an airplane, just little things like lighthearted things like that.
Yeah.
I think I got reinforced to the fact that that's what I believed, but I almost didn't know, in a sense, why I believed it. And there were people that came into my life that were complete polar opposites to the way I believed. And I was so firm in my foundation; they were so firm in their foundation. And it kind of was just put my mind in a loop. Is like, okay, it was confusing. It was like, I don't know why these people don't understand, why they don't look at the world the way I do. And then smart people would press into my beliefs as well and say, why, well, why this, why this? And like, I had zero answers because it was just simply what I've been told. Like, this
Yeah.
is what you're told, this is what you believe. And so I kind of just made a point, and like, it's kind of, looking back, it's interesting that it happened at 2020, like the turn of a decade, which is interesting. But like literally January 1st, it was like I guess my New Year's resolution, you could say. I started reading and then just got really like locked in on it. I just realized like I just started very slow. Like 5 pages was just a hassle. Like I would be like, wow, man, this. And I chose like one of the most driest like finance books to start, and it was just
funny.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
But it just started as like and I think it just came back down to I mean, ego is the enemy in a sense. Like their ego helps us continue to strive forward, but also is an enemy because I thought I knew everything, and then immediately was humbled because I mean, looked like a fool, didn't really know what I was talking about. And I think those question marks that I had, I almost needed to put an answer to the question marks. And I think I just pursued, and at first it was very light. And then the more and more, it was just kind of like this like little exponential, it was almost like this interest in the back of my mind or my heart that kept just gravitating towards like, just read a couple more pages of the Bible, like see what they have, what it has to say. Right. I don't know.
Yeah.
I've never read it.
Yeah.
See what it has to say. Start reading more books. And so then I just kept pressing on. And then by the end of 2020, or it's like mid 2021, I read from like cover to cover of the Bible, which I like would have never thought I would have ever done. But
Yeah,
I was like just kind of chipped away, and just was like kept interested in, I guess, some sort of discipline where I was like, all right, let's read like 5 pages a day. And just, I think it was like almost like a spirit, like almost just, I felt, I know I can be better than where I'm at right now.
A
I think
spiritual
it was a
journey.
good drive. Yeah, absolutely.
That's cool, man. And then after that,
Yeah.
then you were just, I guess, positively reinforced with that feeling every time you did it.
I think so. Yeah, and it's the positive reinforcement on like started to love the longer cycles for that positive reinforcement. So like when I started reading, I don't see it right away, where maybe other things I indulged in did. I did see that satisfaction with social media right away.
Right,
That quick,
right. The like.
yeah, absolutely. And as I more and more, it's like I didn't see it right away, but then like 2 months down the road, maybe I start in January, say March, just for an example. I look back, I'm like, whoa, I remember reading about that like 2 months ago. Then I'm like, what else can I figure out, right? And then kind of and it's like these longer cycles started to occur. The same thing with like with working out. Like working out is very similar operating structure. It's like at first, I mean, the first month is terrible.
So tough.
And then it gets to a point where the more it absolutely 100% is, and it's difficult because it's longer reward cycles. And then the moment, but you build that habit, the moment you get off of it for a little bit, you're like disoriented. Like, I feel weird. This is not normal. Because you built such a good habit with the good things. But it's like the tough things to start. And it's just like those little small, I think those little small tidbits of wisdom that just popped up. And I'm like, I really love this a lot.
Reinforcing, what you keep saying is the tough choice, making that tough choice. And I think at some point too, it's like figuring out a way to not make it the tough choice, but the choice that means something or like makes us feel good. Even if you
want to do.
Exactly. Even if it's like, for most people, it's like, man, that's pretty tough or hard. Kind of like the ice bath too. Every time before I get into the ice bath, it's like, but
then almost like retraining your mind where you get in there, you're like,
yeah, exactly. And then and that it just gets easier and easier. Now I'm just like, all right, I'm getting in. I know there's a shock. Here's a shock. Oh, now I feel amazing. Great. So
absolutely.
It's definitely
huge.
It's huge. Good. Yeah. Okay. So here we got a few minutes. We're definitely gonna do a part 2 because we can talk for trilogies on this.
Love it.
So real quick, take us through, in terms of the visitors, like, do you have a morning routine or a nighttime routine? And if so, what are you doing?
I like to experiment on a lot of different things. So I try and stick with it long enough to actually see the results, but I'll like right now, the current morning routine I have is I'll wake up around 4:30 and I'll go right into a sweat right away. And so what I've tried to do, and I've seen this, it helps because it kind of is that boost of momentum, energy, confidence to start the day. It's like already the first decision I'm making is with that tough choice. So do that. And then usually I'll go just pretty much like right into work. And sometimes like I don't even take it, like unless I have a meeting in the morning, I just will like be like dripping sweat after maybe a cardio or something. And I'll just come right back into work and usually taking a shower middle of the day. I try and get I'm not super consistent with it, but try and get a cold shower in the morning. That's always super helpful. Again, that just difficult decision. Yeah. It's something that it's almost like a controllable, difficult decision that we can make that is helpful. So it's not perfect, but whenever I'm seeing the best results, I'm getting up right when the alarm goes off. Don't snooze the alarm, like right away. So you're making that decision right away. Then going into a workout and a quick one. I mean, more of a cardio. It's more to get sweating and kind of like
flush the body.
Yeah, absolutely. And then afterwards, getting a cold shower and then diving right into work afterwards.
Man, very cool. Very cool. What about nighttime? What's your nighttime stuff like? Are you still developing?
Nighttime, a little bit, yeah. And it's been work-wise recently has been like so busy where a lot of my habits have fallen out over the past maybe month or so, just because summertime with to-do dudes, it's just picking up the pace. So my habits haven't been locked in. But when about maybe 4 to 5 times a week, what I'll do is I'll shut down my phone an hour earlier. I get better sleep when I shut my phone down earlier. And I have these two, the
blue blackers. Me too. Yeah.
So in the nights, I put those on if I do need to work later into the evening, and then try and get I don't have it in front of me right now, but my Kindle, I'll read for like 30 minutes to an hour if I have that luxury, and just keep that consistent. So always like reading has been before bed, and then morning is more like, it's kind of like I go hard into the day and then kind of like taking off the gas a little bit and then to get ready back in. Yeah.
Love it. Do you do any sort of supplements or do you drink water? Do you do any of that in the morning, tea at night, or things like that, or what?
Water a bunch. That's one thing I really try and push for. Not too much on supplements. That's something, a Q3, Q4 goal for me is to get more into health and fitness with the dietary stuff. So I do, after every workout, I'll do a protein shake. So I'll have either whey protein or like a pea protein. Try and get like a 70 grams or so after a workout. But some people are like over conscious about the supplements and all this like great stuff, which I mean, I like to learn more about. I don't know where to start on that. So I just haven't really jumped into that territory yet.
Yeah, for sure. I'd say definitely slow. Like you don't have to like I used to do a lot of that before, but now where I'm at now is just more of like natural remedies. So like I'll do teas at night. I also
Nice.
do like I make my own tea now. So I kind of like natural ginger, honey, turmeric, mint, parsley, and cilantro, and I like
Nice.
let
Yeah.
it boil, and I got this like
Oh, that's awesome.
purple juice. Yeah, it's crazy. So we can talk more about that stuff at some point.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, dude, like, all right. So we'll definitely do a part two. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for sharing,
Yeah.
some of that enlightenment and some of those perspectives. And I would say, I guess for anybody listening for your last couple minutes is, what would you like, what would you say to them if someone's, maybe going through the same thing, or maybe they're in the same situation where people are, outside factors are just kind of trying to tell them things and tell them what to do or how to do it. Based on
Yeah.
your experience, what would be something that you would say to them?
The only person that really knows your journey is your heart and the person you are, and the people will try and, on the outside, influence their will for your life based on their expectations of the person you should be. But we're all created very uniquely. We all have a specific vision that we're called to. We have to find it, we have to search for it on our journey, but very specific. And one of the things that I'm learning, and I would encourage anybody just to stay no, I'm not going to use the word comfortable, confident in the low periods, because every low comes back to a high. So you go through and it's just normal. Like anytime you're at a high, just expect like you are going to crash. So just enjoy it while it's there, because you're going to come back down,
Right.
and it's just continuing. It's almost like risk mitigation or
Yeah, risk management,
try.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd probably be the way to say it, is like when you go through those valleys, it's just like the discipline, consistency. Like you don't feel great, but still get to the gym. You're not clicking on all cylinders, still show up and just push through it, because there's another side of it.
Yeah.
And it's funny because as humans, we don't have enough vision to see that far into the future. So just, I think staying confident, like that is so natural. Everybody goes through that. You have waves where you're on top of it, you got the mojo, and then you crash down
Yeah.
and then you come back up. And it's just staying consistent. The more consistency you can have through those periods, I mean, I think if you can manage those lows, your highs are going to be so much higher. You're going to keep moving at a fast pace. You get discouraged in those low moments, but you want to try and like push through them as fast as you
Yeah.
can.
Just
So
get
that'd
through
probably
it.
be my encouragement.
Awesome, my brother. All right. Well,
Absolutely.
you guys heard it here. Thanks for joining the podcast, guys. Have a great weekend. Just remember, it's the thoughts in our head. And don't forget, nothing changes until you do. Peace. Yeah. All right. Let me pause this here.